a man many call the last great Roman. All right, so we're not going to start at the beginning. No, we're jumping right into the fire. Literally. The year is 532 AD, and Constantinople, the greatest city on earth at the time, is completely tearing itself apart. The whole city is in flames. You've got citizens just rioting everywhere, murdering government officials. They've even gone and crowned a new emperor. And the actual emperor, Justinian, he's trapped in his palace, totally panicking, and he's about to bolt. 30,000. That's the number of people who are about to be killed in the aftermath. See, just as Justinian is about to flee, his wife, the Empress Theodora, steps in and basically gives him the spine he needs to stay and fight. And what does he do? He unleashes his most loyal, most ruthless general. The streets, well, they're about to run red with blood. I mean, talk about a mic drop moment. These are the words that changed everything. Empress Theodora basically looked her husband in the eye and said she'd rather die an empress than live as a coward on the run. It was a total power move. And with that one defiant speech, she completely sealed the fate of every single person out there rioting. So Justinian's found his courage. Now what? Who does he call? He calls the one man he knows can get the job done, Belisarius. And Belisarius doesn't hesitate. He takes his elite troops, marches them straight into the Hippodrome. That's where all the rioters are packed together. And he just unleashes hell. It's a straight-up massacre. No mercy, no questions asked. In one bloody afternoon, he proves his absolute loyalty, and just like that, the throne is secure. Okay, so Belisarius has proven he can be brutal and loyal at home. Justinian sees this and thinks, I can use this guy. So he sends Belisarius out into the world. His new mission? It's a big one. Go and reclaim all of Rome's lost western territories from these so-called barbarian kingdoms. And this, my friends, is where the legend of Belisarius really takes off. And his first big test is a monster. He's up against the Sasanian Persians, the other superpower of the day, at the Battle of Dara. And just look at these numbers. They're crazy. Belisarius has 25,000 men. The Persians, they have 50,000. He is outnumbered 2-1. But Belisarius is a genius. He digs these hidden trenches, baits the Persians in, and then at the perfect moment, bam, a massive cavalry counterattack. He doesn't just win, he completely shatters the Persian flank. It was an absolutely legendary victory against impossible odds. So, next on the list, North Africa. And, this is where Belisarius shows he's not just some one-trick pony on the battlefield. He conquers the entire province from the Vandals in, get this, just 6 months. 6! And he doesn't do it with brute force alone. No, he uses this brilliant hearts and minds campaign that completely changes the game. And this quote right here is the key to the whole thing. He tells his men, "I shall not consider any one of you my comrade, unless his hands are clean." Now, this wasn't him just being a nice guy. This was cold, hard strategy. By enforcing this iron discipline and making sure his soldiers paid for everything and didn't harm anyone, he sent a message to the local population. We're not conquerors, we're liberators. This won their trust completely. Suddenly, supplies were easy to get, people weren't resisting, and that's how he was able to move so incredibly fast. So Africa's back in the fold. What's next? Well, now it's time for the main event. Belisarius is headed for his biggest challenge yet, retaking Italy itself from the Ostrogoths. And this campaign is going to take him all the way to the gates of Rome. Okay, so he manages to take Rome, but then the tables turn. The Ostrogoths show up with a massive army and trap him inside the city. And just look at these numbers. It's insane. Belisarius has 7,000 men. 7,000! And he's got to defend 12 miles of old, crumbling city walls against an army of over 30,000 Goths. I mean, this should be a suicide mission. There's no way he can win this. But does Belisarius panic? Does he even think about running? Not a chance. When the Goths send envoys demanding his surrender, this is what he tells them. And we know this because the historian Procopius was right there in the room with him. For as long as Belisarius lives, it is impossible for him to relinquish this city. That's not a negotiation. That's a promise. His resolve was just unshakable. 374. That's how many days that siege lasted. 374 days. For more than a year, Belisarius and his tiny army held Rome. It was just an absolute masterclass in defense. He used every trick in the book, clever engineering, sudden hit-and-run raids with his elite cavalry archers, and just pure stubborn grit. He didn't just survive, he outlasted and completely broke the will of that massive Gothic army. At this point, Belisarius looks like a superhero, right? He seems completely unstoppable. He is this close to conquering all of Italy. But here's the tragic twist. Back in the imperial court, Emperor Justinian is getting nervous. He's paranoid. And for a guy like him, a general who's too successful can be even more dangerous than a barbarian army. Belisarius' greatest enemy isn't on the battlefield. It's the political poison brewing back home. So Justinian decides to send reinforcements to Italy. Great, right? Wrong. They come with a huge string attached. The commander of this new army is a guy named Narses. Now, Narses isn't a general. He's a powerful court eunuch, a politician. Justinian is so terrified of Belisarius becoming too popular that he intentionally sends a rival to keep him in check. And what's the first thing Narses does? He basically says, "I'm not taking orders from you," and splits the Roman army right in two. It's a recipe for disaster. And we see the consequences almost immediately, and they are absolutely catastrophic. The city of Milan is under siege and begs for help, but because Belisarius and Narses can't agree on a plan, nobody moves. The two Roman armies just sit there while the city falls. The Goths pour in, slaughter the male population, and burn one of Italy's most important cities to the ground, all because of petty political jealousy back in the capital. After the Milan disaster, it's like the whole world just starts to fall apart for the empire. First, the plague of Justinian hits, one of the worst pandemics in human history. It kills millions, just guts the army. Then, a new, super charismatic Gothic king named Totila comes along and starts undoing all of Belisarius' work, even retaking Rome itself. So Justinian sends Belisarius back, right? But he's still suspicious. He gives him hardly any troops, no money. Belisarius is basically powerless. All he can do is watch his life's work crumble before he's called back home, a supposed failure. But the story doesn't quite end there in failure. For years, Belisarius just lives quietly in retirement. He's still a rich and famous man, but his fighting days are over. Or so everyone thought. Because one last desperate crisis is about to pull the old soldier out of retirement for one final heroic stand. So get this, a raiding party of about 2,000 Kutriger horsemen are riding straight for Constantinople, and the city's defenses are a mess. There's nobody to stop them. In a total panic, Justinian calls on the only man who can save them, the aging Belisarius. And what does Belisarius do? He gathers just 300 of his old veteran buddies, sets a brilliant ambush, uses all sorts of tricks to make his tiny force look huge, and sends the invaders running for the hills. A complete and total rout. One last flash of genius. Okay, but just when you think you know the story, there's a bombshell. That historian, Procopius, the guy who was Belisarius' aide and our main source for all of this, well, it turns out he wrote another book, a secret book, one he kept hidden his whole life, probably because it was filled with the most vicious, scandalous dirt imaginable, accusations that could literally ruin the reputation of everyone we've been talking about. In the introduction to this secret book, he basically says, yeah, all that official history I wrote, I was forced to hide the truth. He then goes on to paint this picture of the imperial court as a place run by actual demons. I'm not kidding. He talks about corruption, murder, sex scandals, and Belisarius, he claims he wasn't this great hero at all, but a weak, pathetic man completely dominated by his unfaithful wife. It just flips the entire story on its head. Suddenly you have to question everything. So what are we left with? Who was Belisarius? Was he the hero from the official histories, this brilliant general whose loyalty was just tragically repaid with paranoia and suspicion? Or was he the character from the secret history, just a pawn in a much bigger, nastier game? Maybe the simplest truth is that his genius was just too bright for the emperor he served. His life is this timeless, incredible story of talent, loyalty, and the ultimate tragedy of a man who could defeat any army on the field, but couldn't defeat the jealousy in his own emperor's heart.